So I wanted to start a little bit by talking about place, because I think in all your films, I mean, the character is obviously very, very important, but I think the spaces in which they are equally, and at sometimes maybe even more important. And over the course of your career, you've shot films in LA, you've had a film, your last film was set in Florida. This time you go to Texas City, Texas. What was it about that specific place that attracted you?
Well, I knew I wanted to shoot in a refinery town. I knew I wanted to find a city on the Texas Gulf, but we didn't know which one. And we rushed right into production because this film came about because of COVID. I had to shut down another film I was working on and moved to this one. And so there wasn't the development and pre-production were very quick. And so my producer and I drove to South Texas, Corpus Christi, and drove north and just hit every refinery town. And we fell in love with everyone. Everyone had its own wonderful characteristic. But then we came across Texas City, and there was when we drove into Texas, not only is it like the largest refinery town in the U.S., but as we were driving in, we saw this water tower. It's not even in the film. It just says Texas City, the all-American city. It's like, okay, it's mostly just twisted pipes and rust and steam and flame, but this is the all-American city, okay. And so that was already speaking to me. But then I started to learn about the history of Texas City and the very sad and disturbing history of the entire area, with Galveston being next door. Galveston had an incredibly tragic hurricane in 1906 that killed up to 15,000 people. There was an explosion in Texas City in 1946 that killed hundreds. There's the Texas killing fields. There's just so much history in there, but it's all very dark and sad history. So it was speaking to me on that level as well. And so we settled there.
Thank you. I mean, maybe the other sort of key component of this film is Simon Rex. I mean, I was wondering a lot about the casting, because in terms of his biography in real life and the biography of his character, there seems to be an amazing degree of overlap there. I was almost thinking, did you write it for him? And then one other casting thing. Also, Judy Hill. I was kind of very happy, very surprised.
Oh, nice. I'm glad you recognized her.
From the Minervini, last film by Roberto Minervini, which also screened here. So.
Oh, yeah. It's a film called What You Gonna Do When the World's on Fire. It's a documentary. But I saw her in it, and I was so taken by just her presence. She plays Leandria in the movie. So, but regarding Simon Rex, we're about the same age. I've been following him for about almost 3 decades. He's had his peaks and valleys in the entertainment world. Starting as an MTV VJ, he was the face of MTV Raps in the mid '90s. Then he was in the Scary Movies, and he went away, but then came back, went away and came back, and he always entertained me. And then when social media rolled around, and he had a presence on Vine and Instagram, and he had his own podcast. I just was saying, this guy's a survivor, like Mikey, just keeps going. But and that might be the one actual trait that they share. Simon is amazing, and he's not Mikey in any way. But he just always entertained me, and I always wondered why the industry didn't give him a break in terms of a nice meaty role that he could chew on, because I saw that he had the talent of comedic improvisation. He had that skill. And he also had his timing, and even those little short 6-second Vine videos told me that I could see that he has delivery and he can do a dramatic role. So when we first came up with this idea, we had him in mind. But then we forgot about it, and we started developing this other film for 3.5 years. Then COVID killed that, and then we got into Red Rocket. So when I called him, he said, hey man, I'm just sitting up in Joshua Tree doing nothing. I will be in Texas in 3 days. And he drove to Texas, and he came so prepared. I don't even know who drove, because he had all of those monologues, those Mikey rants, and those were all scripted. Those weren't improv. Those were scripted. And he had them memorized by the time he got to Texas.
That's amazing. That's really impressive. Wow. So, any questions from the audience? Please raise your hand. And we have a mic. Yeah, we'll bring the lady towards the front. Thank you. Go for it.
Oh, that's heavy. Hi. Thank you for your movie. It's one of the best films I've seen for a long time. And
nice.
the timing, as you just said, it was really, for the entire film, it was spot on. And I really want to thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about the preparations you did with the actors. Since you said you had such little time to prepare the film, I was just wondering because the whole cast worked so well with each other. So,
Yeah, thank you. I love this cast. This might be and there's not a weak link in this cast. I was so happy to work with each and every one of them because even the first timers brought such amazing. They're amazing. Like I was blessed. But I had to work with them. Obviously, half the cast are first timers. You know, we have Simon, Susie, and Bree. Bree is Lexi in the film. Susie is Strawberry, and the three of them are experienced actors. Even Susie, who this is her first film, you know, she studied acting in college. So I consider them experienced. Everybody else, they were all first timers. And first timers, you know, they all have their own level of comfort, their own comfort level, and they all have to be treated differently because, you know, they're experiencing this world for the first time. And my partner, Samantha Kwan, who we started working together on Florida Project, I gave, I don't know if any of you've seen it, but it has a lot of little children in the film. And so I had Samantha coaching the children. But then I realized she was also great with the first-timers because she was there when I had to focus on other things. There's a million things to focus on. And she started becoming the coach for almost all of my first-timers. And that's how it made it so much easier this time around. I have to give her so much credit because she becomes their mother. She becomes the person for them to go to if they have questions about. Sometimes I don't have time to, fill everybody in, especially the sabotage scene at the end of the movie. That chaos was real because there's only 2 experienced actors in that room, and the rest are all first-timers. So, and we had very little time, so not everybody always knew what they were doing, you know? And so to have Samantha there to be to really help them out and make them feel comfortable. So I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Any more questions? Please raise your hand. I will go to you and then to you. Just wait 1 second for the mic. Go for it.
I just wanted to ask generally, because to piggyback off of the last questions, how do you generally go about casting the movies? Because one would assume that you would maybe go for very established, like really top, like famous people, but is it a conscious choice? And if so, do they bring some naturalism or?
Yeah, thank you for that question. No, it is a choice. It definitely is a choice. It's a choice that I can barely pay rent because I'm not casting any stars in my film. But what I'm trying to say is I intentionally, I love seeing fresh faces. You know, I love seeing fresh faces. When I go to the cinema and I see a fresh face, it helps me, get into the film quicker. The suspension of, disbelief, I'm able to get in faster, and also I just love seeing new talent come into the industry, and so I'm just keeping my eyes open all the time. I street cast, and so does my partner, and we just keep our eyes open for the people who really we have that immediate, that presence, that aura, that it factor as they call it, and when we see that. We know that it's our duty to go up to that person and exchange information and get to know that person. And if that person shows that they're enthusiastic back, then you got something. Sometimes you find somebody who could be amazing and you'd want to see on the big screen for 2 hours, but unfortunately they have no interest in this whatsoever. So when they return that enthusiasm, it's everything, because then you can become collaborators with them and work from scratch to sometimes even develop a character together.
Thank you. Go for it.
Could you tell us why Bye 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 and Sync. What made you choose it? Were there other songs on the list? And also loving your stories about cinemas on Instagram, so keep them up.
Thank you. Well, while you were watching the film, we went out and did a tour of 4 cinemas, so I'll be putting that up later. Yeah, Bye Bye Bye. Okay, so that's a good example of working with an actor, because it was because I found out that Susie was a musician and could sing and actually taught piano that I knew she was so talented, and I wanted to show that talent on screen. So we thought, what song can she sing? What song can she perform? So we wrote that scene because of her skill. And then we said, okay, well, it has to be contextual. It has to work. So we went through every song that had to do with breaking up or like kicking somebody out. And finally, we just said, why don't we just go with the one that's going to cost us the most? And it cost us the most. No, but they were wonderful. I mean, NSYNC had to actually approve of it. Each member had to approve. And yeah, I'm really happy it's in the film. But it came about during production. It wasn't in the script.
Thank you. Go for it.
Hello, my question, I'm here, sorry. Are you still working on the other film, or are you planning to work on it? And
Yes, I am. Yes, it's a film about drug user activism in Vancouver, Canada, where they're very progressive in their, in the way that they're handling drug use and harm reduction. And it's a passion project of mine. I truly want to make this film. It just has to, unfortunately, COVID really has to be out of the way. No, really, I just don't want to mix messages, and it's hard to make during COVID in any way, shape, or form. So, yes, hopefully we get back to that. But if we can't go right away, I'm thinking about making another film on this level, just because this was very freeing. COVID placed so many limitations on us that we had to make this film with a crew of 10. Maybe sometimes 11, but it was like 10 and 11 made up this entire crew, and there was something so nice about that. We were a little intimate family doing what we wanted to do, not having to answer to anybody. And I just want to do that again. It was special. It was like it was smaller, much smaller than Florida Project. And yeah, I'm sorry. I'm rambling now.
No, please go on, please.
No, but that's it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for the question.
To this guy here, and then this lady here. 1 second, we'll just get you the mics. Go for it.
Thank you for the great movie. Similarly to Tangerine, a kind of fast food store or donut shop is a big centerpiece of the movie. Is there a specific reason you like these kinds of places?
Good question.
Yeah, but once again, it's going to reveal that I have no vision. Because this was written for a food truck outside the refinery. And it was because my producer and I were driving past Donut Hole, and we just saw this thing, and we slammed on the brakes, and we were just like, oh my God, the film gods are giving us this right now, because not only visually it's perfect and location is perfect, but there's so much you can read into the donuts, and then there's even a reference to one of my earlier films. So it really, it just was like it came all together. Again, serendipity and happy accidents.
Thank you. To this lady here, we need them. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Okay. We'll start with you, and then we'll move to the gentleman in the back. There's so many people; it's kind of hard to.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, very excited. I was very excited to see this movie. I'm a big fan of Tangerine and Florida Project, and I really like how you kind of always look at these people that are more on the margins of society, and also show the beauty in their world, and you really, draw the audience. And I think, and I was wondering what kind of draws you to these characters. Like, how do you find these characters, and why are you so, drawn to these places and people?
In a way, I think it's a reaction to what I want to, what I'm not seeing enough of in U.S. film and TV, and then also it's my way of exploring. It's my way of sort of discovering my own country in a way. But it's very important for me to, and actually the Canadian film that I'm about to do actually really you got me even more focused on ethical research and ethical filmmaking and being and going into it, I always go into it saying if a filmmaker came into my life and said, I want to, make a film about your world and perhaps even cast you to play somebody who has parallel life experiences, I would want to. I obviously would want them to do it in a way in which I feel good about the representation, and and in the end, feel that I was respected and it was done in the responsible way. So that's very important for me. Like, ultimately, it's their opinion about these films that I make that means more than critics and means more than general audiences. It's really how if they feel that I've done them right. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's go to the guy who already has the microphone at the back.
Hi.
Thank you.
My question's really about the politics of the movie. And I mean, I've seen your previous films of yours, and I thought that this one differed in quite a significant respect, because it actually, it was the background of it was the 2016 election. Yeah. And I just was wondering if you have a feeling about, the feeling that I got somehow was that you were somehow using the deplorables for laughs. And I just was curious about your reaction to that, because, I mean, there were lots of political things about the way that it was set in an oil town, and all of that stuff was there, and the politics. But somehow it was kind of reading a bit to me like the Beverly Hillbillies or something.
Oh, well, that's an interesting take, and I'm sorry you feel that way, actually, because that's not what I'm going for. And
yeah,
to tell you the truth, I never say that well, first off, I don't like that term, deplorables, but second, I never say, where their political leaning. Not one character. Actually, I do, but it's a hidden little Easter egg. The family of Nash, they're actually Clinton voters, if you look on the front lawn. So for me, this is what my country is incredibly divided right now, and it's been divided for a while, but I think 2016, that election especially, politicized everything. Because the election became a reality show. Everyday people who would normally not watch the coverage of an election suddenly were watching. And for me, that I wanted to obviously tackle the theme of division in this film, but in no way alienate one side. I didn't want to preach to the left. You can tell from my other films I lean left, but yeah, I didn't want to preach to the left. I wanted to make something that could be read on both sides and perhaps even have anybody apply their own politics to it. There is only one time, I think, and of course it's up for interpretation and it's how you see it, but there's only one time where I actually make fun of Trump, and that's when you hear him say, I think the election is going to be stolen or thrown or whatever. When I just found that audio, I was scouring all the audio from 2016, and when I found that, I laughed out loud because he was saying the same thing back then that he did now. And so that is the only time where I'm just poking fun. But at the rest of the time, I think it's very neutral, but again, it's up for, and I'm doing it that way because I really would like, both sides to discuss and both sides to be engaged. So it is upsetting a little bit to me that you feel that way, but at the same time, it's showing me that, this is your interpretation, and that's good. That means that you're thinking about it and discussing it. Yeah. Sorry, I'm jet lagged, and I have caffeine in me because we just tried and feel all shaky.
Thank you. Another question here at the front. If we can just get the mic down here. And that will have to be, I think, the last question because we have another screening very soon, unfortunately.
Thanks for the movie. I think it's fantastic, like all of your movies.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to ask, why is the film called Red Rocket? Is that meant in a sexual way, or? The
very simple answer is that there's an English slang term, and I may as well just tell you what it means. It's a little crude. It's a dog's erect penis. Sorry, you've already. But also it's up for interpretation. Like some people think she's Red Rocket, some people think the truck is Red Rocket, some people, we intend. And my sister, who is the art director on the film, production designer on the film, she was playing with red and blue a lot, and shades of red and blue. But where she would apply red, is very interesting. Yes, so. But again, up for interpretation. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody. It was great being here.